Well, she wrote a pretty interesting column, and now we elaborate.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
Friday shows are always kind of loose because we record them on Thursday afternoon, as many of you would be aware. If you're a new viewer, now you know. So we don't really opine on the issues of the day in the news cycle because they'd be obsolete, certainly when it comes to Washington. I mean, it's every 20 minutes the story changes, right? So it's fun. We get to sit back and chill a little bit. And former radio talk show host Ann Sorrentino is here. She's more than that on a former basis, no doubt. But she wrote an op-ed piece, which she occasionally does in the Providence Journal, which has caused me to say, it's generated a little bit of attention, and it's about a guy that is kind of won the hearts and minds of certainly more than sports fans around here. The headline that we've all been kind of like, what? Over is Bob Kraft's legal problem. A couple of weeks ago was the latest time we found the newsroom summarizing, if you've been living under a rock, the story.
In a statement released Saturday, Robert Kraft said, "I am truly sorry. I know I have hurt and disappointed my family." He continued, "The last thing I would ever want to do is disrespect another human being. I have extraordinary respect for women. I hope to regain your confidence and respect." Police say Kraft was chauffeured twice over a period of 2 days to a massage parlor in Jupiter, Florida, one that the FBI discovered to be engaged in sex trafficking of women. Kraft was allegedly seen during each visit engaging in a sex act and then handing over an undetermined amount of cash. Officers secretly recorded Kraft and other men as part of the investigation.
This is not about lonely old men or victimless crimes. This is about enabling a network of criminals to traffic women into our country for forced labor and sex.
Some Patriots fans feel their team's owner should own up.
Admit to and say I'm sorry, and I should apologize to the women involved with that.
77-year-old Kraft is expected in Phoenix this weekend at the NFL owners meeting. He has a court date on March 28th, but is not required to appear.
And didn't, because we're now in early April. Before I bring Marianne on, here's a couple of things she wrote in her column. If the billionaire philanthropist, Noam, were an average John with a capital letter, Kraft would pay a fine like any regular customer at the Jupiter, Florida Orchid of Asia Massage Parlor. Instead, Florida law is being put through the hoops so that Kraft can choose how justice should be served, scrambled or over easy. He can either admit that he would be found guilty if he went to trial, given the evidence, reportedly videos of him having a service performed, or he can actually go to trial, watch the video again, and probably be fined $500, which I suspect is less than he spends on tips to caddies in a month. And it goes on. You are sharp of tongue and sharp of keyboard. There's no doubt about that. It's good to see you. How are you, my friend?
I'm well. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
What caused you to want to write about this?
Well, you know, I live in Florida in the winter, and I don't live far from Jupiter, so this is, you know, in my face. And
was it big down there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, huge. I mean, the sting itself was big, right?
I actually wrote this column, and I called Ed Acorn, and I said, listen, I don't know if you have
Ed Acorn is the managing guy.
My boss at the Journal, yeah. I don't know if you have any interest in this, so I'm just going to send it out. I looked up the NFL thing on my, because I don't know squat about sports, and I don't want to know. So I looked at all the cities that have NFL involvement and thought, I'll send it to their papers, because they already hate him, so they'll take it, and I'll get, you know, more money from this, because it'll be all over the country. But that didn't happen because, you know, this is my priority, so that's where it went. But I thought it was brilliant, though, the way it said he went there twice in 2 days. He went twice in 2 days, but he went in a different color Bentley. He has two Bentleys, so he went in a different. Now, if you really want to like slide in and not have anyone notice you, and you come in a Bentley on Monday, the next day you come in like a Jeep, right, or something. I don't know, an SUV. But you know, the fact that he's in on a, well, I don't know what color they are, beige Bentley on Monday, and then you come in on a black one on Tuesday. That doesn't change anybody's vision of you.
That's hardly Pink Panther-ish.
But he's not, you know, he's not. Let's face it. This is a guy who has a lot of money, and he owns a very important football team. I understand that, but nobody ever said he was Einstein. You know, a lot of people make a lot of money, and
they're what?
Look at the president. I rest my case.
Right.
I'll let people draw their own conclusions.
Right. So, your motive is to say
Just pay the thing.
He's bending the system. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I'm trying to say a lot of things. Most importantly, I was trying to focus on the story, the sub-story, which should be the main story, which is of the women. And I got a wonderful letter from a wonderful feminist leader in Rhode Island who for many years has been at the top of the heap of feminist leaders, Jody Glass, Dr. Jody Glass. And she said, you know, this is the only article I've seen that focuses on the women, talks about what's going on here. And, you know, if in fact there's trafficking going on, and this was the big story in Florida because they'd have the visuals of behind this storefront thing. You know, Florida is mainly strip malls. It's not as glamorous as you think in the movies. Everything's in a strip mall.
Right.
So it's a little
I find it aesthetically unpleasing.
It's disgusting. And they have these little strip mall shops, and in there are all these women, and they're in the back now in an alley cooking on a little hibachi, and then they have a little, like those dorm refrigerators like your daughter has in college, and that's their refrigerator for the whole gang, and they're sleeping on the same table that they gave the service on that day. I'm disgusted. So, you know, and they're in indentured servitude because they're illegal, and then blah. So I'm worried about them. I don't care if he gets what he got that day every hour. God bless you. And as I said in the piece, you know, you've got this money, and I don't understand this about men, frankly. Maybe you can enlighten me. You want to do this, be my guest. Whatever you want to do. I don't care you want to dress up like whoever. Do it. But if you're a celebrity and you know that they're out for you, or it's going to be a real scandal because people know you, get a damn apartment or thing, buy a house or whatever, go somewhere where nobody sees you on 60 acres of land. Why do you have to do this in this strip mall in Florida where you know eventually if the feds are going to be onto the thing, they're going to go there because it's easier to you know, pick up 20 guys there than to go to 50 houses on 20 acres of land each. But you know, so do it. Then the other thing is when he made the apology, of course he pulled his wife out of the grave because that's always the excuse. My view of women and my respect for women has been engineered by the most wonderful woman in the world, my wife so-and-so that died a few years ago. And then the 49-year-old, the girlfriend doesn't come out of the closet at that particular moment with the child that she had that he doesn't say, he says it's not his. I mean, what's going on here? What is it?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you. You're the guy at the table. Bring in some other guys, I'll ask them.
Yeah, well, you know, in as much as I don't, in all of your efforts in rants on feminist issues, one of the things I'm sure you would agree to is that feminism in being a woman is not a monolithic type of situation. So I don't have an answer for why Bob Kraft allegedly made that the place where he needed to have service. I don't know. Is it a need to be more pedestrian? Is it a need to be more grounded? Did he actually meet the manager who reportedly performed the services and had a kind of a liking to her, and they had some kind of connection? I do not know. I do not know. But I did say at the beginning of this whole thing that I was pretty shocked at the lack of crisis management skill set that he and the team brought to the table to deny, and then make that statement and still fight this thing. I think the very forgiving American public would have been, to your point, get in there, write your check, do the due process, take the hit like every other John, so to speak, and be done with it.
Go on vacation for a month.
Right. Well, there's problems with the NFL. There's conduct codes, and even owners are, I guess, in that dynamic where discipline can be exacted on you, up to and including having you sell the franchise.
Well,
so but is this that?
It's
no,
and it shouldn't be, and that's the problem. I think Rhode Islanders reading this in their hometown paper, our hometown paper, the Providence Journal, they love the Patriots. This is rightfully looked at as a team that brings revenue into the state. It brings glory to the state. I understand that.
But you do know sports.
But in Florida, people are saying, oh yeah, he didn't do it, like they didn't take the air out of the balls. You know, that's where they are. They just see the Patriots objectively as a team, and then everyone hates a winner.
Or angrily. They don't like them.
Yeah, because they win too much, because their team keeps losing to them, whatever it is. I mean, Florida has some great athletes in a lot of sports, and it's a very sports, it seems to me, oriented place. I'm not a sports person. I only know this stuff because I volunteer in radio, and I volunteer in NPR in Miami, and I'm in the studio and I hear about what's going on in the world, including sports. But you know, this story, just go do it. It's not a feminist issue. This is not a feminist column. This is a column about decency and humanity, whatever gender you are. It's not about. It's not because I'm a woman. I hope that and frankly, the mail I got on last weekend after this appeared, because now that you have your email on the bottom of the thing, people actually write to you right away. And I got the most beautiful emails from men saying, you know, this is right and I'm sorry and this was, you know, this shouldn't happen this way. Nobody's saying they're against sex or, you know, this guy.
Well, here's the thing. When we come back, the one thing I do want to ask Marianne, she makes a point here that this is not about the sex issue. This is about power.
Right.
And we'll talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. So the press is like really turning this thing into a tough battle. You know, the last thing you're going to hear is a talk show host suggest that the media ought to calm down on its interest in information, but the Boston Globe and other news organizations are petitioning hard for the video evidence to be released, which is in part payback, I think, for Bob Kraft continuing to drag the process out. He could have written a check and been done with this whole thing.
$500.
Just right. And so now we're going to have a constitutional battle over whether or not we can see the evidence. You talk about this in your column that you wrote last, and by the way, check it out on projo.com. We should link it, by the way, on our website, just so you know, at foxprovidence.com, so you can give it a read. But you talked about this being more about power than anything else.
And I actually, you know, Peg Langhammer, who's a former Sister of Mercy and a friend of mine forever. We've been friends for like 35 years. And Peg still is in the field, she's the tops in the field of sexual assault issues in Rhode Island and probably throughout the country. She's a woman who went to jail for refusing to bring the court's rape victims' letters, files years ago. Anyway, I called Peg when I knew this was going to run, and she was away, but I left her a message, and I still call her sister because it's a joke now, because she hasn't really been sister for a while. Sister, I wrote a column that's going to run, and I'm dedicating it to you. I'm not going to say that, but this is really for you because you taught me everything I know about these issues from being on the board of the Rape Crisis Center all those years. And one of the main things that people need to know about sexual assault, or what popularly is called rape, and people don't realize there are all these degrees of it, but men don't rape women because they're looking for sex. Most rapists are impotent when it gets to the minute. It's about control and power. I'm going to get and I'm going to show her who's boss, and that's what happens. And this is only another version of that, because these women are locked in this place. They eat in the alley, they sleep on the same table that they serviced you on, and you can show them in your Bentley. That's what's going on at some level. Because otherwise...
I hear you clearly. Let's make sure that we certainly distinguish that which Bob Kraft is accused of is hardly rape.
No, I'm just saying it's the thought process. It's the subliminal, what drives you, what's the pleasure factor. Because otherwise, frankly, Dan, if you had this kind of money, you go get 20 of those women that are on the red carpet. I don't even know who they are, but they're on the red carpet. They're gorgeous. Get 20 of those. It probably costs you less than this legal bill's going to be.
Yeah, my power thing, I think, was more directed in the judicial aspect of this, the continuing to fight this thing,
oh, yeah.
As opposed to the decision to go in and again have whatever service you're paying cash for. The advice has been horrendous. The self-actualization is completely missing. The admittance to the act seemingly is a threat to his authority, his power, his image, his brand. And I think sometimes you just got to say, you know what? You just took a hit to your brand. Do you want to make it worse?
Right.
Right. Just, I mean, guess what? We will forget about this if you let us. And I'm
right.
perplexed by that.
No, and thank you for raising that, because I hadn't thought of it in those terms. But you're right. It's like he drove through 2 stop signs, one block after the other. He drove through. The Florida cameras got him, and then the cop came up and gave him the ticket, and he said, "You got 2 tickets because you drove. Here's the pictures." And, oh, I'm not paying for that. So now instead of 2 tickets at $50 each or whatever they are, you fight it for 6 months with all these fancy lawyers wherever they come from, and instead you're going to pay $20 or $50 or whatever it's going to cost him. A lot of money. I know money's irrelevant, but it's stupid.
What's the moral of the story? I want to talk about Joe Biden in the next segment, but what's the moral of the story?
The moral of the story is that we need to understand that justice, more than everybody and beyond Bob Kraft in this country, nobody's above the law, and this is another example about how they're not, and they're silly if they think they can pretend to be.
There you go. When we come back, are we confusing Me Too and nuzzling? We'll be right back. It's like, Joe Biden finally came out with a message on social media yesterday that I thought was the right message and probably a week late, especially if he's actually going to run. But this isn't Me Too. Please tell me that you see it that way.
It's not Me Too. I mean, Joe Biden, I like Joe Biden, and I think a lot of Democratic voters and independent voters in this country, and probably fed up Republican voters, they're just looking for someone they see as like a regular guy that they could go out and have a beer with if they wanted to, who understands what they're talking about. And to me, he fills that role in terms of the next election. As a politician and as a man, here's a man who's grieved in public for the last several years about the loss of a son that he clearly loved, and he wants to do this because his son said he's counting on his father doing this, running for president. He's a man who lost his wife and daughter in an accident, and then, fortunately for him, and her, probably, he met this wonderful doctor, this female doctor that he's married to. He's a good man. And I admit that if you look back at the Anita Hill hearings, I say, Joe, what the hell were you thinking? You should have done this. And he's got things he has to fess up to. But I think the country, much of the country, is hoping that there could be something like, I think the winning ticket is Biden, Kamala Harris. That's my idea of the winning ticket. I was thinking Biden and Beto, and then I saw this Beto kid thing. What is that? I thought he was having a fit of some kind. So I'm not sure about him. He's too spastic for me.
I don't know. The South Bend mayor is getting a lot of traction.
I love him.
And he's making a lot of sense for, he reminds me a little of a less troubled Mayor Correa in Fall River, who is but mid-20s and sounds like he's 50 years old.
No, he's a wonder. I agree.
Yeah. I
agree that, and I just was...
He's a progressive I could tolerate in the sense that he seems to see things on a pretty practical level. I'll tell you, I don't know. I don't have any idea anymore. All the bets are off. After Trump, could we elect the mayor of South Bend to the presidency of the United States?
But he's so articulate, and he's prepared for any question. He knows more about foreign policy than the average person at the United Nations. You ask him a question, they ask him about foreign policy, he knows about foreign policy. They ask him about military strategy, he knows about that. He's been a decorated soldier. He's a married gay man. He's a great mayor. I mean, he doesn't have a big ethnic vote because he's Maltese, but they should be running the Maltese Falcon every week, I think, if he runs, so that you just keep that word out there. But he's, all kidding aside, great.
Well, listen,
great.
I'm getting there, so I say this with complete affection. Is it the geezer in you that wants to see the geezer? Joe Biden, is age going to be an issue here? You're pretty astute on these things. Do we need are the Democrats just going to default to somebody younger because they think that's what they need?
Well,
and is that a winning formula? I'm not sure.
I think that this is going to be a tough fight because I think age is a false issue because he's not that much older than the current president or other presidents that we've had. And he's not going to,
No,
hopefully, if all
they're
things being,
contemporaries.
yeah, he's not going to die in the next 2 weeks if he doesn't have something we don't know about or he doesn't get hit by a truck, which could happen. But so age is not an issue. What is an issue, and I don't think he should run and say I'm only running for 4 years. That's stupid. You're either running and forget about, decide that later. But I do think that the attraction of Joe Biden is what I said earlier. People want some peace and quiet. It's like they've been living next door to 87 students in a 2-room apartment for the last 2.5 years, and by the time they get to the election, 4 years, and they're just like, could somebody just stop that noise and put me in a calm place? And they see Joe as the calm place, somebody known, somebody calm, somebody who foreign leaders already know and respect, someone who was so gracious.
Ironically, if you take Trump out of the equation completely, like he never...
I like to take him out of the equation.
No, I hear you. If he never appeared on the landscape, Joe Biden would actually look like a semi-loose cannon in the sense that his speech is hardly ever regulated. He has only dozens of instances where he's had to kind of double back and say, that's not what I meant, and I misspoke. And,
Yeah.
and so, but so that he is the soothing, and I agree with you, the soothing candidate is something else. Because in a normal situation without Trump, he'd be like, oh, no, we want to take a risk on Joe Biden, right?
Yeah. Because before this, it was all about how many faux pas he makes.
Right.
And he does it all the time. But I'm not saying, I'm saying that would be my preferred ticket right now. But there's so many great people that there are a lot. I mean, Buttigieg is great.
Well, listen, I'm going to get all your thoughts on that as we go. You're writing a book. I have a minute. What's going on?
I actually wrote the book. I wrote the book in 1985 and 6 when I was going out of my mind about everything that was happening to me with the diocese, etc. And I was leaving Planned Parenthood. And I put it in a box. And, thought, well, this was a good idea, nice exercise. And now I just got this message from the Holy Ghost about a month ago saying, why don't you open that box? So I did. And the Holy Ghost had edited the book and said, you know what, you should go to your computer, edit the stuff I'm telling you to edit, and get this thing published.
So you're not going to, it's a novel?
It's a novel. It's
about
fictitious,
a priest.
Totally fictitious. And it's about a diocese in disarray, which is the title. I don't know where it is, though.
So be looking for it. Maybe one?
Well,
You're shopping
I'm just still editing and stuff. I'm hoping to submit it to some agents or something. Listen, the odds of getting it published, who knows? Nothing. But I don't want to self-publish because the greatest reward is that a publisher thought this was good enough to invest money in it. So
Yeah, sure.
I want to try to do that.
If you know a publisher. Thank you.
Thanks.
Ann Sorrentino, who needs no introduction. We'll be right back. Whatever you think, you got to admit there's just one Ann Sorrentino, no doubt. We'll have a good weekend, I hope. It's going to be nice spring weather. We'll see you Monday at 3 on WPRO and back here Monday night. Good night.